I'm Cade from St. Bede Farm, and I want to talk to you today a little bit about leather boots and boot laces. You may have seen our video the other day on how to use our boot butter and our saddle soap to clean and condition your boots, and you would have seen some of our boots in that video. Thought I'd share with you some of the stuff I've learned over a few years of having different boots from different companies and finding what I liked and what I didn't like. So I first got a pair of American-made leather boots probably in about 2014, 2015. They were made by Wolverine. They had little metal tags on the bottom of the laces that said Made in USA. They were not the 1,000-mile boots. I can't find them online. I'd love to show you a picture of them, but apparently they're discontinued. I can't find any pictures or what the name of them is. I think I got them in size 11. They came as a distressed leather. The first time I conditioned them, it changed to a nice dark, deep color. They looked really good. I'd wear them for church. I'd wear them for all kinds of stuff. After we got married and we moved back to Wisconsin, we got some chickens. And I found that every time I went out in the yard or to the chicken yard in my boots, because they had really aggressive lug soles, those lug soles would pick up a lot of mud, and even if I cleaned them the best I could before I came in, once that dried, it would be leaving dried mud all around the house. They just weren't working out good for me anymore, even though they still looked good. So at that time, what I was really looking for was a pair of boots that wouldn't be tracking mud and dirt all over the place. And I still wanted them to be good leather boots made in the United States. And what I ended up finding and buying was Fleet Farm's house brand Made in the USA boots, Field and Forest, which I cannot confirm, but I strongly suspect, and I found online that other people strongly suspect, were manufactured by Thorogood. They had the white Christie Vibram soles. They had real nice leather. Every time that the leather would bend, you'd get a real nice color pop through it, especially as they darkened with age. They started out a tobacco color, and through years of conditioning them, they got darker. I've got a photo of them from when they were probably 4 years old, and I had just gotten them resold that we'll show you guys. Anyway, I had those boots for about 4 years. They were really good for me. Good traction, didn't drag mud. They had them in a nominal 6-inch and a nominal 8-inch. I got the 8-inch, and the Wolverines had been a nominal 6-inch. I like taller boots. It gives you a little more protection, keeps stuff from coming up over your boots, and a little more ankle support. So those were really good boots for me. After about 4 years, I needed to get them resold. And they were going to be in the shop for over a month, you said, because just of the backlog that the cobbler had. And they needed it. So I was looking for a pair of boots to wear in the interim. I went to Fleet Farm and couldn't find any of the Made in America boots. I thought they discontinued them, but later I saw them again online. And so since I believed they were made by Thorogood, I decided that I was going to go buy a pair of Thorogoods. Now, I did have some problems with those boots. Those I bought in a 10 double E. I was kind of learning about my foot and my foot size and my foot width. They became very comfortable once the leather was broken in, but they were still not quite wide enough for my feet. And Thorogood and these boots, which were not technically labeled as Thorogoods, there's a plastic welt on the Goodyear welt. And so what happened was my foot just was over the top of that welt, and when I'd wear them for a long period of time, it would start to bite into the bottom of my foot and cause it to be uncomfortable. So they were really comfortable for a while, but you didn't want to wear them and be on your feet for too long. So I went to our local shoe shop to buy some Thorogood boots, and I tried on the 10 double E's, and compared to my broken boots, they were just so tight. They just squeezed my foot so bad that I said, "Do you have anything wider?" And she said, "Well, Redwing makes some that are wider, and I said, well, do you have those? So she showed me a pair of boots which I bought, which I have right here. And these are Redwing 953s, and they come in it, or they're available in a triple E. So these are 10 triple E. Put my foot into them. It's like, oh, I can feel right away that width is just so much better for my foot. It's a fairly thin leather, but it's a nice leather. Almost no break-in. Not a lot of cushion underneath. You know, you're gonna get tired if you're standing all day for 10 hours or 12 hours. The other thing with the Feeling Forest was with the Christie sole. When I got my motorcycle, I couldn't hook my heel on the pegs. I have forward controls on my motorcycle, so these boots were much nicer for riding on the bike for that. But these have some downsides too. One of the things that I noticed related to the motorcycle, if you see the bottom of this sole, it's not an aggressive tread pattern. I never had any problems with it as far as dirt, gravel, anything like that. But when you put your feet down on asphalt on a motorcycle, your feet will just slide like ice. You can hold the bike up, but they just don't grip because it's not as soft as like that Christie sole. They also have way less traction than the Christies on like wet slushy snow. These things, you better be careful if you're walking on some wet slushy snow with them. They will slide. I'd like to take these to Cobbler and see if I can get this Redwing Super Sole replaced with like a Vibram Mini Lug. I think that would be a huge upgrade for these boots and let them last for me for a little longer. These are also a nominal 8-inch boot. They don't have a pull tab, and the Farm and Fleet boots did. I missed the pull tab. It's kind of annoying trying to grab your boot like this when you're pulling it on sometimes. An upgrade for the Farm and Fleet boots, they have what I would call like a semi-gusseted tug. You can see it comes up to here. The Farm and Fleet boots, there was no gusset to the tongue. It was just a separate piece. The point of that gusseted tongue is that it can keep stuff from coming into your boots with sand, whatever else. It has to get up past that gusset to get into your boots. So that's nice. I like that. Probably talk about these laces here. Whatever laces Redwing put on these boots were pretty much crap. They wore out in, I think, a month. Maybe it was 2 months. I think they were just some lightweight round cotton laces. So on my Farm and Fleet boots, I had bought the iron laces, and I had liked how well they held up, but they have a huge fading problem, and they just didn't look that good. So I knew that there's a competitor to iron lace called Rhino Lace, and I tried the Rhino Lace laces. They've got these nice metal tips. They feel really good, available in a bunch of different colors. This pair of laces is probably 2 years old. Doesn't show any wear. Looks great. Highly recommend the Rhino laces for applications where you need a tough lace and you don't care if it looks like a work boot lace, because that's what it looks like. So once I gave those Farm and Fleet boots to my brother, these boots became my standard everyday boots. Before that, they were mostly my church and looking nice boots, and I wore the Farm and Fleet boots as my standard everyday boots. So you might be thinking, well, what's your new church boots? Well, this is my new church boots. These are Mule Packers by White's Boots. And these I've only had since Christmas, but I love them. And I think these are, for me, sort of the ultimate boot. Now, why did I go with these particular boots? The things I learned from these that I didn't like is I wanted a pull tab, which we got here. I actually wanted a little taller than this. This is supposedly an 8-inch boot, and this is supposedly a 10-inch boot. Watch when I put them together. Look at how much extra height I have from this 10-inch boot. I didn't realize it was going to be that much, but I knew that these 8s were just a little shorter than I wanted, so I went with a 10, which is what this was. The sole on these are a Vibram V-bar. So as you can see, it's not an aggressive log tread that's going to track a lot of dirt into the house, but it still does have a lot of grip. And believe me, these are way better than these on wet, slushy snow. I also wanted a little bit more of a heel to get a little bit more arch support so that my weight was spread out a little more evenly, because I'm often in my boots for long periods of time. Now, if you know anything about Whites, they're one of the boot makers in Spokane, Washington, that does a lot of handmade boots. And a lot of their high-end handmade boots are in the $600 to $700 range. There's a few other companies out there in Spokane that do the same thing and are similar. Nick's boots, Frank's boots, JK boots. I looked at a lot of them. All of those, pretty much all those handmade boots are going to be made in a stitched down construction. And I have nothing against stitched down construction, but most cobblers won't resole stitched down boots. So if you get stitched down boots from White's or JK or Nick's or Frank's, you're likely going to have to send them back out there to be resoled. Now, I live in Wisconsin, that's a ways for me. However, White's, their lower end, cheaper boots have a Goodyear welt construction, which is what most cobblers will work on. So these boots have a Goodyear welt. I can take them to my local cobbler. I can get them resoled. Not a plastic welt like those Fleet Farm boots, but for me, I was looking for a little bit of an upgrade from these, and as far as the sole is concerned, but I didn't feel I needed a $600, $700 pair of handmade boots. I'm not a wildland firefighter. I mean, these are mostly around the house boots doing simple outdoor chores, building fences, taking care of animals. I was almost happy with these, but they just didn't quite check all the boxes. And by moving in, so I considered the Redwing Heritage line, and basically I couldn't find something in the Redwing Heritage line that was wide enough for my feet. They didn't offer any of their triple E's in the Heritage boots, and all of them seemed to be cut really low. I wanted a taller boot, but these are normally about $390. I got them just after Thanksgiving on the sale. They were down to $320. They had to be built. They weren't in stock in my size, so they sent me an email confirmation, and I said yes, go ahead and build the boots. And I received them just before Christmas, so a nice quick turnaround there. I'm really happy with them. They look great. The quality is nice. I think it's on par or better with the Redwing Heritage. I'm sure that the $700 boots are even nicer, but these are going to be really nice for me. Oh, one of the other things I liked about them, this is minor, but you can see here it's stamped with the White's logo up here, and it's really kind of inconspicuous. My Farm and Fleet boots were stamped here really big. The Thorogoods are stamped here really big, and I'm not big on showing off companies' logos on my clothing, so I liked that it was up here where it's going to be hidden by my pants and not a huge logo. Another thing to note that I really like about these is that they're fully gusseted tongues. The tongues are gusseted all the way up to the top. So I got 10 inches here. First of all, I got all that going up my boot to give me ankle support, and anything that's coming in has to get up to here. But even to get over the tongue, it has to get all the way up, taller than this boot even was. So another thing I really like about them. They're comfortable. They're not fully broken. They're going to need some more breaking in. If I just have them on my feet and I'm sitting in a chair, it feels like slippers. It feels great. But when I've been standing for an hour or two, I can start to feel that the arch support is really still pretty high for me. It hasn't been quite formed to my foot yet. But that just takes a little time. Like I said, I'm wearing these essentially for church and if I'm wearing nice clothes right now. So wearing them like that, you're not going to break them in super quickly. Also, they came with really cheap laces that the ends fell off when I was trying to lace them. So I ordered the leather laces from White's. They were just like some cheap nylon laces or something. I don't even know. I threw them away. But these leather laces from White's, which is what they put on their $700 boots, really, really, really nice. I like that. I think they just look a little better than these iron laces. There's nothing wrong with the iron laces. I still going to use them for these boots where I'm working in them more. But for my dressier church boots, I like the leather laces. We'll see how long they last. I don't know if they'll last as long as iron laces. Maybe someday this pair of boots will get really quite worn. In that case, I'll probably get a second one, and I'll have the same boots for my everyday boots and my going to church boots. But for now, these are going to be good boots for me for my everyday boots. So now these boots are my wife's new church boots that she got for Christmas. And these are Redwing Silversmiths. If this boot was a men's boot, I might have ended up with this instead of the whites. I really love the leather on this, the color. It just pops really well, especially if you like, as you flex it. I mean, just look at that. Just beautiful, beautiful leather. The soles, the Vibram mini lug sole. This is what I'm going to try to get them to put on my Redwing. So here's my Redwing, and here's the Silversmith with the mini lug sole. So if I can get that on this boot, it'd be much better. It's still going to have a grip, as you can see, but it's not going to be tracking a bunch of stuff into the house. These, clearly they're not as tall as my whites. You can see that. But, again, these are women's boots, and for the length, they've got a nice height on them. So this is the only thing really is that the tongue, it's sort of gusseted right down at the very bottom. It's basically a non-gusseted tongue. That's the only real negative thing I would say there. It still has the pull, although to be honest, I like how White's did it better where it doesn't extend up over the top of the boot. But I'm not, can you see that? But I'm not super, that's not a deal breaker for me. It's got a heel, not a big heel, but it's got some heel. I think these are gorgeous boots. So these are gonna be my wife's going to church, dressing up boots. She also has some everyday boots still too, and I'll show you those in a minute. But first, I'm gonna talk about how we got to them, which is through the kids. When my boy, who's my firstborn, was a baby, he would not keep his shoes on in the car. As soon as you got him in the car, take his shoes off. When you get to where you go and you put your shoes on, he'd maybe keep them on while you were walking around, but as soon as he was sitting down, off would come his shoes. We were walking through the Sears, and they had a pair of Craftsman brand pleather little kids work boots. He saw those and he fell in love with them. He couldn't talk at the time. He just kind of stood there, pointed and blabbered, and we knew what he was saying. I think they were like 10 or 15 bucks. We bought them, and that solved the keeping the shoes on the boy problem. He liked boots, but they were pleather, and he's a boy, and they very quickly wore out. So we knew we needed boots. I think it was something to do with the fact that I always wore boots, and so that's his thing is he wanted boots. And so we were looking for different boots. We tried a few different things. We had tried some Doc Martens kids boots. They were way too narrow for any of my kids' feet. My kids have wide feet like I do, and those just were, even in bigger sizes, it just wasn't going to work. So one day, my wife showed me something that she had found online from somebody she followed on Instagram, I think it was, and it was this company called Adelisa Co, and they specialized in kids' leather shoes and boots, and they had some women's stuff as well. So we said, well, let's give it a shot. And this is the first pair of boots that we got from them. This was my son's boots. Now you can see these are probably twice as big as his first pair of Craftsman boots. And these have now been worn by 3 of my kids, and they're in storage waiting for numbers 4 and 5. This is Adelisa Company's Paseo. They're made in Nicaragua. They've got a really soft sole, kind of like the Christie sole, except that's sort of got a little bit of a heel profile to it. You can see here it's sort of just this, what would you call that? Dimpled kind of sole. And you can see that all that traction, that dimpling has worn off up here and has worn off down here on the heel, but it's still soft enough that it still has plenty of traction. They offer this boot in 2 colors, the regular and the espresso. This is the lighter color, the regular color. It definitely came lighter than this, but by cleaning and conditioning it over time, it will darken. You can see, especially here on the toe, where it's been really worn, it's a little darker from just being cleaned and conditioned. You can also see how wide the toe box is on that. That's one thing I love. These actually fit my kids' feet, nice and wide. This, I think, is the lace that came with the boot. We have switched to different laces, and I'll get to that in a minute. Non-gusseted tongue, no pull strap, fairly low. One thing I like is these little brogue holes on the sides. Just gives it a little, I don't know, extra touch of flair, I guess. These boots really do well in different situations. My son would be wearing them with a pair of camouflage overalls and a plaid shirt, and they'd look just fine. And then he'd wear them the next day to church with his suit, and they'd look just fine. Then when he got to be too big for him, they went to his sisters, and his sisters wear them with dresses, and they look just fine. So they don't look masculine on the girls, they don't look feminine on the boys, they don't look too dressy when you wear them with overalls, they don't look like straight up work construction boots when you wear them with a suit. Really have been a nice fit. So we have a lot of pairs of these. So this is the oldest pair. Like I said, this one's been worn by 3. They also offer women's stuff. So when we bought this pair, we also bought a pair of Oxfords for the wife. Same sole, very similar construction. She's had these now for probably about 4 years. As you can see, we're getting to the point here where we've worn off all that sort of pebbling on the bottom of the sole and most of it on the heel. But again, it's soft, it still has some grip. So we also bought my daughter these little shoes, and we bought a pair of these for my wife as well, but it's the exact same shoe but just bigger. So you can see again in the toe, this has kind of been worn and it's darker from being conditioned over time. These ones have a plastic sole, so there's essentially no wear on the plastic sole. It's got as much grip as it did the day we got it. And because we liked these boots so much, and because they were usable for the boy to hand down to his sisters, we ended up with quite a few of them. So this is the oldest one. These are our 2 newest pairs. So obviously this one's smaller. So for baby number 4, because we didn't have anything smaller than this size, we needed one for her. We actually do have one that's smaller than this that she was wearing that we bought in between, but as she grew out of that, we had to buy her a new one. So this one's brand new. This is, I think, the darker color, the espresso color, and this one is not. This is the lighter color, and you can see that right now they're basically the same color. But this one hasn't had the chance to darken with age. This one has. So these are baby 4s. These are the boys' current ones. Now these are actually, I think, a women's size, because they make this boot in children's, men's, and women's. And several years ago, we bought the wife these ones, which are her everyday boots. And these are the darker color that are several years old. And these are the dark color that is brand new. So one of the things that she didn't like about the Oxfords is they're too low to walk out in the snow or anything like that. They're great in the summer, but you need something a little taller. So we got her these boots. She still said, man, it'd be nice if they were taller, but it was what we could find. As you can see, that between the women's and the children's, the construction's exactly the same. No differences, except maybe the shape of the toe box. The kids' ones have that little wider rounded toe box. The women's ones get a little sleeker. Actually, I misspoke earlier. This is not the women's shoe. This is the largest size in the children's one. But as you can see, again, there's no differences here. One thing that I don't like about these for women's shoes, that I don't mind for the kids' shoes, is that these eyelets are just holes in the leather. So over time, it would be possible for, if you're pulling your laces tight, to rip through the leather here. Obviously, in my new boots, got metal eyelets and much, much thicker leather. I mean, look at that leather compared to, that leather. It's night and day. So these ones will probably go by the wayside at some point, or maybe when the boy gets a little bigger and he needs to replace these ones, and maybe he'll move into these ones. That's probably what we'll do, because we like to reuse things. But they're great boots for kids, these Adelisa Co ones. They also, as you can see with the little Mary Janes, they make different styles. They have some other kinds of boots. This Paseo one has been my favorite because it looks good on boys, it looks good on girls, it looks good at church, it looks good in overalls. I don't like those like the pull-on ones with elastic, because that elastic is not going to last as long as the leather. So these have been my favorite out of it. However, I saw on Instagram today that they are announcing a new boot for children and women. They don't have it for men, but I wouldn't buy Adelisa Co boots for men unless you're a person who doesn't really use your boots for work at all, and it's just something to wear, like maybe just to church. And that's just because they're not heavy duty. You don't need heavy duty boots for kids. They're growing so fast that they're not going to wear out the soles. They're not going to, they're little, they're not going to rip out the eyelets. But if you're working as a man in a pair of boots, you're going to need something a little more substantial. And probably when the boy gets to be in his early teens, we'll find something a little more substantial. But as I was saying, they announced a new boot called, I think, the Tierra. It's definitely a bit taller, which I really like. It's got a pull on the back, which I really like. And it has a zipper on the inside, which I'm conflicted on. The zipper on the inside is nice for kids that are able to put their boots on themselves but not able to tie them themselves. That zipper is probably the weak point where they would fail. I think we'll probably still try them out. I definitely like that they're taller and that they have that heel pull. I'm just not sold on the zippers. So here's one of the newest boots. This is what number 4 is currently wearing. If you didn't notice, it doesn't have the same laces. Okay, this is the original lace on the old boot. This is some kind of, like, I don't know, cotton, poly, whatever. This is leather. This is simply a roll of leather that I bought 3 rolls in 3 different colors from Hobby Lobby for like $5 or $6. And then I let the kids choose what color they wanted on their boot. So this girl chose a dark brown to match her boots. Her brother chose dark brown to match his boots. But the other 2 girls, number 2 chose black. And you can see this is an older pair of the darker espresso color compared to a brand new pair of that darker espresso color. So you can see how, you know, that boot's going to darken up over time if you condition it. Number 3, she chose like light colored leather laces for her boots, which is great because honestly these 2 boots look awful similar. I mean, you can tell which one's bigger when you put them up to each other, but when they're laying around the house as kids do, you can look at the laces and be like, light laces, this belongs to kid number 3. Black laces, this belongs to kid number 2. Easy. There we got the white Mule packer. Beautiful boot, love it. We got the Redwing Silversmith. Again, beautiful boot, love it. And then we got the Adelisa Co Paseo. Great boot for kids, love it. So this I paid $324 on sale. This I paid $324 not on sale. Very similar price points here. These I think they're a little cheaper in the smaller sizes and they get more expensive in the bigger sizes. I think the women's sizes are 85. You want a great women's boot that's going to last for a long time, that kind of checks all your boxes. I think this Silversmith, this is in the rough and tough copper leather, I think it is. They also have it in black and just like what they call a mocha, which kind of looks like this color. This is definitely the prettiest of the leathers. If you're looking for a women's boot like that, it doesn't come in any widths other than a D width, and I think it goes in women's sizes up to 12. Highly recommend. We've been very happy with it. If you're a man who wants a boot that you can use outside for like farm work without tracking a lot of dirt and other stuff into the house, it's got some heels, you can use it for motorcycling, and that looks nice enough that you can wear it to church, and you have wide feet like me, White's Mule Packer. I didn't tell you this, but in the White's Mule Packer, I followed the measuring instructions on White's website, and they said 10 double E, which I was a little worried about because 10 double E's tend to be pretty tight on me, and I really wanted a 10 triple E, but they do their sizing a little differently. So I followed the sizing guide, slid them on, perfect. Follow the sizing guide. I also had sized myself on the JK sizing guide. That one said if I was ordering JK boots, I would have needed a 10 triple E. So different boot companies sometimes have different sizing. Why did I not go with the JKs? JK also offers a boot, the 300X, that was at that about $400 price point. It is a 6-inch boot. This is a 10-inch boot, so it's considerably shorter. It does have less of a heel, but it has a heel. And it is in that stitched down construction. It does not have a pull on the back. available in a few different colors of leather, one of which is like a red that's really pretty. This one, as far as I know, is only available in this dark brown. I really wanted that pull on the back. I wanted a taller boot, and I like the idea of being able to take it to my local cobbler and give him business when it's time to resole. So those are the reasons that I went with the White's Mule Packer over the JK 300X. Nothing against that company or that boot. If what you're looking for in a boot is different than me, that might be a good option for you as well. I think that's it. Remember to take care of your boots, clean them, dry brush them, clean them with the saddle soap, put the boot butter on them, and a good pair of leather boots will last you for a long time and serve you really well. If you have questions, throw them in the comments, and we'll see if we can get to them next time.